Hey, welcome back everybody. This is Low Life Plays coming at you with another deck tech. This one's going to be for Hylda of the Icy Crown. I've seen some people expressing some interest in her, so I figured I would throw out my build of her. She's pretty budget, to be honest. I mean, a lot of the tap cards are just not expensive. But in Hylda, you can just control the whole combat step. Like if you ever wanted to just constantly be able to do whatever you want during combat and then beat people down with your ice elementals, then this is the deck for you. Or if you just like some control and want to try something that, is fun and unique and is just, you love Azorius like me, this is a good deck to try. It doesn't cost much to throw together either. So Hylda, she costs 4, and when you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, you can pay 1 and do shenanigans, essentially. You make a 4/4 blue-white elemental, or you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, or you scry to draw a card. Really, really powerful. And that's for whenever you tap an untapped creature, which is just so good. So there's the elemental token. Then we got our removal. We'll start with that. So we got Raven Form. Just get rid of pesky exile effect with artifacts and creatures. They get a bird. Super good. Generous Gift is a classic. Don't Move is a really good one for this, just because you destroy all tapped creatures. Getting rid of tapped creatures. Let's go. Promise of Loyalty is just in here because I just like it, It just puts a vow counter on each creature if you need to wipe everything. People are going to be trying to hit you because you are going to be tapping their stuff. This deck does frustrate your opponents, so just be aware that you are going to be a problem and for people to hit you. So if you die, it just happens. Supreme Verdict, sometimes you just got to wipe the board. And we got to draw cards. Verity Circle, so good in this deck because whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't attacking, you draw a card. So that's just if they're activating an ability or you're doing it. Super good. And it comes with a very expensive tap effect, but it still has one. Really in here for just the awesome draw. Charade of the Numbing Depths. This one is just another one of the probably key pieces that really helps this deck go along. It's just a really, really powerful card. When it comes in, it taps and stuns. And then whenever you tap one or more untapped creatures your opponents control, you draw a card. You can do this once each turn, just some extra card draw. Chart a Course, I just wanted some more card draw, right? I mean, just draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attack this turn. Farsight Ritual, same thing. You can bargain because you make a lot of tokens, so being able to look at 8 cards and put 2 of them in your hand is just so valuable at instant speed. That's why we do it. Some of the most powerful draw cards in this whole deck are going to be Theft of Dreams, where for each tapped creature your opponent has in play, you draw a card. And then combining that with borrowing 100,000 arrows, or draw a card for each tapped creature target opponent controls. So you tap down someone's board, and then you just draw a bunch of cards. Super, super good. Like I said, you're going to be a target, and Hylda is your main engine, so we need to protect her whatever we can. So we're running Lightning Greaves, Swiftfoot Boots, and then I'm also running Giant's Amulet. So the foiling on it is making it a little hard to read, but essentially Giant's Amulet, when it comes into the battlefield, you can pay 3 and a blue, and if you do, you create a 4/4 blue giant wizard token to attach the amulet to. But what it's really in here for is equipped creature gets +0/+0 and has hexproof as long as it's untapped. So you just have a 1-cost equipment that costs 2 generic to equip, and then you're not attacking with Hylda most times. So you can just keep her untapped, keep her protected. I really like it just as an extra source of protection for her. We're running some counter magic. We got Dovin's Veto. We're also running Unwind and Rewind. The main reason that these are the counter spells I chose is because with Unwind and Rewind, we want to typically wait and kind of sense the table, see who we think is going to attack us, because we do have to tap them down like before they're declared and tapped. So it's really just that mindset of we need to be reactive, so our counter spells need to be reactive too. So if we want to counter something, we still want our mana to pay into Hylda if we're tapping other things. So being able to pay the 4 and untap 4, and same with Unwind is pay 3, untap 3, just allows us to have counter magic up and not risk not having any mana up for Hylda. So we need a lot of 2-mana rocks, and in fact, I probably should put more in. So if you want to do that, I would, I have no problem with that, because just having generic 1 producers or generic mana to use is really valuable because Hylda is such a sink. So we're running Mind Stone, Azorius Signet, Thought Vessel, Arcane Signet, Soul Ring, Relic of Legends, because a lot of our creatures that we do end up playing in this deck are legendary, so it's good to just be able to tap Hylda if we want to gain mana that way. She can activate her own ability. That's pretty nice. We're also running like a Felwar Stone, Talisman of Progress, and Cold Steel Heart. So I really like Cold Steel Heart because we do run one other card in the deck that is focused on using the snow mana, or mana from a snow thing. And it's mainly for a thematic purpose, which the whole deck kind of is focused on the cold. You know, it is a budget brew, so it doesn't have a ton of crazy mechanics in it. There are some really powerful things, though. So Cold Steel Heart is very good. Hylda's Crown of Winter. Even if it didn't do anything synergistic with the deck, we would run it. I mean, it's her crown. Like, that's just so flavorful. So essentially, you can pay 1, tap target creature. It costs 1 less. It's a free tap if you do it during your turn, so I suggest that. And then it's also another mass draw, so it's another borrowing 100,000 arrows. But this one is for each tap creatures your opponents control, so it's all of them. So you can really, really draw a huge, huge amount of cards with it. Ice Rot Sentry. This is just a synergistic piece, right? When it attacks, you can pay 2 and tap target creature, which is great. But whenever you tap an untapped creature, it gets +2/+1. So I didn't have it in the build at first because I was like, yeah, you know, that's fine. I have other tap effects, but it can just get so massive so quickly for just it's pretty crazy. Sunstrike Legionnaire costs 2. Whenever he doesn't untap on your untap step, but whenever a creature comes into play, another creature just comes into play, you untap it. And then it has a tap target creature with converted mana cost 3 or less. So really powerful if you're making elementals with Hylda. You can keep tapping down things with this because it'll keep untapping. Really good. Hylda's of Frost. I like having some that are just, so whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, tap target creature, and it doesn't have a stun, but it has this creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap. So I like having these types of effects where when I am tapping things down, I have recurrable tap effects in play, so we can just keep the board going the way we need it to go. So this one, Regna's Sanction, costs 3 and a white. Whenever a player choose friend or foe, or for each player choose friend or foe, we're gonna pick foe for everybody. I'm the friend. You get to buff your board, and then for each foe, they choose 1 untapped creature, tap the rest. So good. Just make a huge board with Hylda. It's so fun. You see a guard approach. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Just some more. These are a lot of our instant speed tap effects. These ones are really what I like, are ones that tap and draw. That's really excellent. So you can tap something, scry, draw. Really powerful card. It taps and stuns when it comes into play, and then whenever you tap a creature, you can put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. So a really excellent enchantment to have. Scroll of Isildur. You can steal someone's artifact, so you can have more mana access with Hylda. Typically, you take their rock or soul ring, or whatever problematic thing you need to get rid of. And then it has a draw effect at the end, and it taps. It does just so much for 3 mana. Really good. Dream Shacklegeist. This is at the beginning of combat on your turn. This is repeatable tapping effect, and it's really good. You can tap something down or keep something down. Timon, we don't run the other part. You can, though. It's also really good. I did buy it in preparation for making the deck when I built this originally, but I found I don't know, it just didn't really fit for me, and this already costs a lot. But it's recurable because it's each combat you tap up to 1 target creature. Bluster Squall. Overload, tap all creatures you don't control. Really good. One of the best tapping cards we have. Expose Evil. This gives you a clue so you can draw, and it taps 2 things at instant speed. Icy Manipulator. Beautiful. Beautiful card. Just lets you tap stuff. Really good. Will of Naga. This is one I haven't seen a lot of people running. I think it's great. You can delve for it, so it costs 2. And then you just tap creatures, and they don't untap during their next untap. So it's essentially an instant speed for 2 mana. Tap 2 creatures, stun them. Excellent. Bond of Discipline can win us games if we have a lot of elementals in play. It can tap all creatures your opponents control, and then all your creatures gain lifelink, so it can give us a huge buffer. Really, really close that gap towards the end game here. Citadel Siege. This is just another reoccurring tap effect. We're typically going to pick dragons, where at the beginning of combat on each opponent's turns, tap something. Very valuable piece. Out Cold. Can't be countered. You just tap things, and then you stun them. Investigate. It draws, does all the cool stuff. Recurable. Elvish Mariner. This guy, he attacks, you scry 1. Whenever you scry, you tap up to X target non-lands. So essentially, he is attacking and you're scrying, and I don't have a lot of other scry effects, but he is in here just because he can tap and scry at least 1 thing every time he attacks. So that's why we run him. Feeling of Dread. It's a tap with flashback. Cone of Cold. Amazing. Amazing, amazing card here. So, I mean, this one allows you to tap all creatures your opponents control, and then if you get higher and higher, you can just do some crazy stuff here. I mean, if you get a 20, you tap them all. They don't untap on their next turn. Next untap steps. Until your next turn, creatures opponents control ETB tapped. Just really strong for 4 mana. That's what we like to see. Repel. Draw. Urza's Rebuff is a counter spell, but it also just taps. It's very flexible for what we're doing, and it counters just a target spell, which is great. Succumb to Cold. It taps and stuns. Send to Sleep. Tap them up, and then if there are 2 or more instants, they essentially get stunned. Stall for Time. This is really excellent because it can tap things and draw, which is, like I said, that's what we're really looking for. Deluge, tap all creatures without flying. Just can really set us up for a really good borrowing 100,000 arrows or one of those mass draw mechanics. Really, really excellent stuff for us. Freeze in Place. This guy is super good. It can just, something that's a super big problem, it's not going to be a problem for like the rest of the game. Right? I mean, if you just on your turn for 2 mana, you tap it and then stun it 3 times. I mean, I've shut down somebody's big, like they make this huge haymaker play, they drop this big creature, and you just freeze it in place. It buys you so much time to find a way to deal with that threat. Icy Blast, for if you control a creature with 4 or greater, you keep them tapped, so they get stunned, they don't untap on the next untap step, and luckily enough, our elemental is 4, and I mean, even if not, Hylda with 1 activation of her +1/+1 counter ability is 4, so very easy, achievable thing for us to do. Downpour for 2 mana, instant speed, tap 3. Opposition, this is one of the more cards that is definitely more powerful, and you could cut it if you need to. It just essentially, you tap an untapped creature you control to tap something. So what you want to be doing with Opposition is with Hylda in mana and Opposition in play, you tap something, you make an elemental, and then you can tap your elemental, tap something else, make another elemental. You can just make you can just make it as much mana as you have. So if you wanted to downplay the deck, you could take out Opposition. If you wanted to upplay the deck, you could throw in like an Isochron Rev combination because we have so many rocks. That would be, I mean, I would probably suggest throwing that in if you wanted to just make this deck even more explosive and more able to consistently hit what they need to do. So yeah, Opposition. Court Street Denizen. This guy's just a repeatable thing, right? So whenever another white creature ETBs under your control, tap target creature and opponent controls. So this is also really good with Hylda because these are white-blue. So when this ETBs, you tap something. If you can pay 1, you make another one, tap something. Really, really strong. Trap the Trespassers. It's a secret council, so everybody votes secretly, and then you tap. It has to be for things, a creature that I don't control. And then each of those creatures with 1 or more votes, put that many stun counters on it. So, awesome. Also taps them. I just want to make sure that's clear. Choking Tethers. Tap 4 creatures. Really good. And for 2 mana, you can cycle it and just tap a creature. So, it's really, really strong in that way. Icebind Pillar. This is the card that specifically needs our snow mana. So, it taps things for 1. You just tap target artifact or creature. Super good. We're getting into our lands here. So this is one of our things, just Suppression Ray. Came out in Modern Horizons 3. It's everything we want. You know, you tap all creatures, target player controls. You may pay X energy. We're not going to pay X energy. But if you did, you could put a stun counter on it. But essentially, it's just a 5 mana, tap all creatures. And it's a dual land. Really good. Sink into Stupor, just awesome. You know, you can put target spell or non-land permanent. You can bounce something. Really good. Hydroelectric Specimen. I don't know about this card if I'm super happy with it. I think it's, I mean, it's a land, so it's really not taking much of our deck to run this kind of effect, so I think it's worth it. But it just allows you to, maybe someone targets Hylda, that's the big reason it's in here, because she is just she's such our engine for everything we need. We gotta protect her. So, allows you to change it. And it's just costing us a land slot, which it is a land, and it doesn't even have to come into play tapped. You can just pay mana, or pay life to have it unplayed, so I think it's worth it. And then we're getting into our lands. I've taken some of the more expensive lands out. So we're running like a Sky Cloud Expanse, running Exotic Orchard, Temple of Enlightenment, Prairie Stream, Azorius Chancery, Glacial Fortress, Command Tower, Deserted Beach, Lonely Arroyo, I'm not super sure, Glacial Floodplain, and Port Town. These are our dual lands to make sure we can hit all of the things that we need to hit. And then for our snowlands, this is probably like, if you wanted to just downplay the deck, the snowlands are expensive. It's really, they don't do anything for the deck most of the times outside of the one ice card, right? But it's just for thematic purposes. So feel free to just swap these for regular basics. I just happen to have enough of these snow lands from... I was building an Abdel Adrian deck that I have posted on the channel, and I used to run a snow package in it just so I could run the one white enchantment that needs to be on a snow permanent, because it has a very good effect for what we want to do, but I'm not running that anymore. So we're running some snow-covered islands. Whoop, scoop those over here, and then we're running our snow-covered plains. So I know that, you know, this mana base can be expensive, but I would just say swap it out for regular stuff and just take out the Icebind Pillar and put something else in that can either tap or just protects you, maybe like a Ghostly Prison or something, or a Propaganda. Just something to keep you safe, because like I said, this deck is going to draw ire of the table. It's going to make people upset at you because you are going to be controlling everyone's combat step. I mean, there's often times when I play this deck where if you attack anyone else, fine, but if I think you're going to attack me, I have to react before you declare attackers. So I'm just going to tap down everything I think is problematic. And we have so much card draw, so much advantage with Hylda in the command zone that it just lets us do kind of whatever we want in that respect. So keep that all in mind before you buy the deck, before you play it in your group and get hated out for making it so no one can swing. Or just buy it, it's pretty cheap, and just have a good time and make them hate you for that anyway. Just have that deck that people are like, oh god, don't play Hylda, please. So yeah, that was Hylda of the Icy Crown. If you enjoyed this deck tech and you enjoy this type of content, remember to just leave a like. That really helps me out, lets me know what I'm doing, people are enjoying, makes me motivated to rip these decks apart, build these decks, show you guys what I'm building, and all that great stuff. And comment, subscribe if you like me that much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!